Today's episode, I'm going to be talking about anxiety and how I deal with it in my own personal life. This was a student request. Thank you for asking, student. Hello and welcome to the Daily Think Share. My name is Zach. I'm here to bring to you what I've been thinking about, sharing about, talking about, listening to that I don't have time to teach in math class. If you're new to the channel, I invite you to subscribe, hit that button, and you will get daily notifications when I come out with new stuff. So the question that was asked of me was, what do I do to deal with anxiety? So one of the things that I sort of boiled this down to is two major things. The main situations where I get anxiety is either one, where I'm in a situation where I do not have any control over something and all I'm doing is worrying about it. And the second one is when I do have control and I could be doing something and I'm probably choosing not to. So I'm gonna walk you through the first one. When I'm in a moment where I can't be doing anything about it, I'm gonna actually give you a story. I was going on a hike with a couple and one of them was worried they left their wallet out in the campsite and they were worried that it was gonna get stolen. So I said to them, what if you just assume right now it's stolen? Now what? Just assume it's stolen. We're like 4 hours away from getting back to it. What do we do if it gets stolen? He said, well, I'll probably have to email and get a new license. I'll have to cancel my credit cards. I'll have to order some new credit cards or debit cards. And my old student ID from UMass, I'm never gonna get back. All right, so what we just did there was we turned something that we couldn't do anything about and started thinking about the actions that we will have to take eventually. And for say the U card from UMass, you mourn that loss. So that's one way to deal with things. When you're anxious about something that you cannot do anything about, those are some things you can do with it. You can sort of fear set. This is something that Tim Ferriss talked about in his TED Talk. I'll actually leave it, I'll put it on one of the sides here, and I'll put it in the description. So Tim Ferriss talked about if he were to set his fears, like what he's really afraid of, he finds a lot of things a lot easier to deal with. So for example, if there's a tough conversation, maybe it's about moving up in your career, maybe asking someone out on a date, asking someone to marry you, asking for something that's on the edge of your comfort zone, you ask yourself, what happens if I do this? What's the worst case scenario? And what happens if I put this off forever? What happens? And when you fear set, you're setting yourself up to have a good reaction no matter what happens. Let's assume you're going to ask somebody out. If I were to think ahead about, well, what if I just got rejected? What would happen? What would it look like? What would I say? What would they do? What would I do? If I were to think about that ahead of time, that would take out a ton of the anxiety about what I would do in the actual moment. So when that actual moment comes, I'm totally prepared, right? Same thing with when you have no control over something, right? My friend, after he actually went back to campsite and found that his wallet was there, he didn't have to mourn the loss of his card anymore. It's kind of like a keepsake, right? And he didn't have to take those actions, but he was prepared to take those actions before he got there. He almost convinced himself that was stolen. All right, so you can think ahead about the actions that you can and will take or the reactions that you could have. For example, you have an open house coming up with a lot of parents coming in that are probably gonna have some questions for me. I plan on having a slideshow trying to answer most of those questions. I'm gonna think about what is this one question that I'm probably the most scared of, and I'm gonna start brainstorming what are some ways I could react to it. It could be that someone has a question about their student that maybe I wronged or I said something offensive. I don't know what I could have possibly said, but if they were to ask something like, hey, why did you say X, Y, and Z in my class? I can already think about what am I going to say? I might freeze, I might cry. There's a lot of things, humans do a lot of things. But if I prepare for it, if I think about what are some of those things that might come up, then I can have a response ready to go if I receive that question that I'm really scared of. So those are some things you can do if you don't have the opportunity to take action. Here's the other thing. A lot of times I get anxiety when I know I could be taking action, but I'm not. So maybe it's preparing some lessons for the next day. Maybe it's I'm preparing for a meeting, or I said I promised to do something and I haven't done it and I'm not ready to make good on that promise. One thing that I do sometimes is I just ask myself, all right, gonna finish these quizzes. All right.
Tomorrow.
Oh, I didn't finish the quiz yesterday. I'm gonna do it tonight. I'm gonna do it.
Tomorrow for sure.
You said you were gonna have these quizzes graded by tomorrow. Well, Zach, you know what? We're just not gonna do it. I'm gonna finish off what I'm doing here. I'm exhausted. I'm gonna relax. I'm gonna watch the rest of this game, and I'm just not gonna have enough time if I chose to do that. So I'm gonna choose to do that, and this is what I'm gonna do. Again, I'm gonna have that response ready for tomorrow. I'm gonna think ahead. Why am I afraid of this? Why am I sad? Why am I feeling anxiety? The main reason for not grading something, can you guess it? It's because I'm gonna look bad in front of my students. I'm gonna feel sad and mopey and kind of crappy saying, you know what? I didn't finish those quizzes like I said I was going to. I apologize. What's the impact? Like, there's a lot of things I can do, and so I can start thinking ahead about what I could be doing. Now, here's the other option. If you have the ability to take action on that, just start taking action. You choose, am I gonna do it or am I not gonna do it? If I'm gonna do it, just start, or choose a time when you're gonna start. So say it's, oh man, I said I was gonna grade all those by tomorrow. I'm really not ready to do all those by tomorrow. It is 6 o'clock right now. It's probably gonna take me this amount of time. I'm going to work diligently from 6:30 to 8:30. I'm gonna work on it for 2 hours. When I make that promise to myself, then say it's 6 o'clock, I set myself up to win for that time. And I say, all right, I got a half an hour to get out whatever crap I need to get out of the way to do that. And so again, it's sort of thinking ahead in the future in a pragmatic, action-minded thing. So in that case, I would say, all right, I got 30 minutes to get done whatever I need to get done, so then I can start working on that. And once I make that mental plan, or maybe I even write it down, start by 6:30, or I put an alarm in my phone at 6:25 saying to start in 5 minutes, that has a great ability for me to dissolve some of that anxiety. So it's either get in action, think about future action that you can take, or it's thinking about future actions that you won't take and actions that you'll take instead of them. Boiling it all down, it's thinking ahead about the future and what's the worst case scenario. It's thinking ahead about the future and what am I gonna do in place of maybe not making a promise. But usually it's all worry about a future that we don't know. That's been my experience anyway. So if you start thinking about what worst case scenarios are without, getting into, I mean, most of the time it's not death. Most of the time, sometimes it is, but the majority of the time that we're thinking about these things, it's not death. It's looking bad in front of our peers, it's looking bad in front of other people, it's social non-acceptance, it's looking unprepared, and again, looking bad in front of people. That's where most of my anxiety comes from. So in the comments, let me know, what are some of the other things that that I did not talk about in this? What are some anxieties that you deal with that I did not talk at all about and still feel really unheard, unanswered? I'd love to answer those. Thank you to the student that asked me. I actually enjoyed answering this question. I hope it's helpful and useful. Keep them coming real quick. Students in my school, if you're someone that watches this channel, I'm going to have this box right here, which I stole from the previous teacher. I might change the color of it, but I'm gonna leave it right under the telephone.
White Dale.
For you to put in questions that you'd like for me to answer in the ThinkShare. Put them in. Please don't disrupt my class to put it in, and they can be completely anonymous. I had a lot of fun answering this one, knowing that it was towards one of my students. Hope I can help you all out by answering the questions that you actually have instead of me just spewing things that I think you might want to hear. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Stay weird.